what makes you anxious about therapy? What makes you anxious about helping other people? What really goes into the space you create when you're in a room? How do you make that specifically unique to you or specifically healing to others? Welcome back, guys. Therapy House in the mix.
We in the building.
Shit.
We out here.
What up? We've arrived.
Man.
Dude out here looking dead and shit.
That's that fatherly exhaustion right there.
Got bags on his eyes. Look at those shits.
I'm tired every day. I was telling you guys earlier. It's fucking work, dude.
Yeah.
While you guys are resting, 4 to 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah, dude.
I got the night shift. I'm waking up every 2 hours.
I'll DoorDash us some Dunkin' right now, some Dunkin' coffee, man.
There you go.
I know.
But yeah, we gather you today. At least get back in the flow of things. Make sure you guys know how to do this because we've all taken
I forgot. It's been a long time.
different breaks.
It has been a minute.
Shit. Yeah. Because me, Lou, and Jeremy, we haven't got on the mic since those editorials. Kind of just getting back. But John, y'all ain't Remedy Radio. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute, man. We've been going through a lot of moves out here, but it's all good, man. It's like picking up an old glove. You know, that shit always fits.
Riding a bike.
Yeah, I actually forgot how to ride a bike 3 times as a kid, so I don't like to use that metaphor.
Are you serious?
Shit.
I'm dead ass serious.
What? You forgot how to ride a bike?
I was like hella scared. I didn't want to do it. Kept fucking falling.
Damn.
But I learned.
You learned.
I
30
learned.
years later, pretty good.
Shit,
Is that
we're
why you're
good.
hitting Jeremy on the side now and shit? You still haven't learned, huh?
That's a totally different reason right there.
That's a different story.
I'm
We don't
still
talk
waiting
about
on the
that.
next e-bike ride out here,
Please
bro.
don't remind me of
I'm
that
still waiting out here, man. Still waiting.
Traumatized out here. I've been delaying the shit.
Man.
I'm like,
Using the rain as an excuse? He's just
Rain. I don't want to ride in the cold. It's like, let's go on the weekend. In the morning, we good.
I gotta ride with never.
Is your bike still work? Is it work?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It just got scraped and shit.
Oh, when you fell?
This bitch ass maybe.
Damn, bro. I didn't know that you were right
Bro,
there next
what's
to me.
so odd about it is that it's cool, whatever, right? But we felt in sync. Like,
We did. We're like
it's
fucking
so
figure
weird because
skaters
I'm on his
falling out
left
here.
and he backed up into me and his handlebar hit my handlebar, but he ended up speeding up, and in that process we both like fucking lost control and we both fell backwards at the same time, like on our backs and
spinning
heads.
through the air.
Dude, it was so weird. Because I can vividly remember just looking at the side of my eye and seeing him and I falling at the same time, just like.
Yeah.
But
Remember, I couldn't find my glasses, and then I found them. They were in my helmet.
bro, he's like, "Yo, have you seen my glasses? Like, I can't find them. We're looking all over the place."
Look at
Yeah,
ankles
never
hurting and
mind.
shit.
Fucking Velma
So
out
shoved
here.
up on top
My
of his
glasses.
fucking cranium.
Where's my glasses?
I can't see without my glasses.
Need my glasses, guys. Shit, I wasn't getting home without the glasses.
So we can't get into season 2 without kind of reflecting on, where we've been. So given season 1's been out, the kind of reception we received, and you guys have heard kind of how it's been going. What are your thoughts on season 1?
Well, I think that season 1 was a success. I think a lot of people tuned into it, and we got a lot of things off our chest. I think it was kind of funny how some people made the comment saying that it's almost like you guys were doing therapy for yourselves. And I don't think that was exactly the point, but I think it was kind of cool that in essence, you did get to see how a bunch of therapists are actually real people dealing with real world things. Mm-hmm. And I think that was one of the basics of what we were trying to accomplish, and trying to at least like get to know your therapist. We accomplished that.
Right.
I think it was also, besides just like general people that we know that listened and tuned in and told me about, hey, I heard the first episode. Like I actually had one of my coworkers told me like, hey, I heard your podcast, and they're in the mental health field. So it was cool. I think it was also something that probably other therapists it's been on their minds. And I think it was also just like a nice way to give voice to what other therapists have been thinking about, talking about, maybe in their own small circles. I think that was a cool thing to see that, other therapists were also resonating with what we were talking about.
I mean, for me, I thought, for season 1, the reflection on season 1, looking back on it, I think it was good to see the scope and range of how, not just our region or our immediate family, but when you went over the analytics, it showed, other countries, it reached that far. Just to know that people were tuning in from all over at different time zones. So I thought that was a unique part of not just my first time doing it. So I didn't think it was going to reach that far out immediately, but it did. And I thought that was a good thing to see.
Yeah, dude, it was somewhere where Ukraine or something. No, listen it during the war, dude.
UK, Belgium,
dude. Yeah.
Indonesia,
Philippines, right? Too
Philippines, yeah.
One person there listening to us.
The audience.
A couple of Canada, but yeah, a good chunk of got a good chunk of listeners all throughout the states, and I don't know where they came from. North Carolina, some New York, some.
Yeah, that was the interesting thing about season 1. Kind of like piggyback was just seeing like the different people around the country, different parts of the world listening. So it wasn't like we had millions, but it was just like still like someone's listening to us in Belgium. That's freaking crazy, dude. So which was cool. But I think just with season 1, just I got to know you guys a little more personally because we all shared personal stories of our different struggles or pain or suffering that we've gone through, and which was cool to see the vulnerable side. Because I know we could just joke around a lot and stuff and cut up. But, then we get serious and like, oh shit, I didn't even know that about you, or like, I didn't even know that you went through that. That's crazy. So, like with Jorge's story, I didn't know really any of that until you told it. So I was like, oh shit, like it made me feel like, oh, I got to know you like better, or have a more understanding of you as a person. So, which was cool for me in that sense. So, yeah,
I would say the same. Yeah, I think obviously I've known John for quite some time now, going on close to 15 years, but everybody else, meeting you all through John, I think it was also a chance to dive a little deeper, to just connect more. And that was really awesome to be vulnerable, but also to do it in a place where we all relatively knew each other, but I think it was like we didn't really like know these things. Not that we tend to talk about them as soon as we get here, but I think it was like cool to just kind of be able to just see all these different sides of ourselves in the past, and get to know these stories.
Well, that's why I think the season 1 is important, because time and time again studies have shown that it doesn't really matter as the most consistent determinant of perceived success in therapy with regards to the modality or treatment orientation. What matters most is the relationship between client and therapist. And so a lot of times, depending on which type of modality or orientation you use, there's a lot of ideas about how you have to present yourself. But, there's also a reason why a lot of clients also want to just ask the question, like, who are you? Or they're like, oh, like, I've been sharing all about myself, but like, who are you? Like that is such a common question. And, obviously we're not going to be like, well, you know what, my turn to share. Like, that's not what therapy is about, right? It still has to focus on the client, but the human element of building a relationship is a two-way street. And so I think that one of the accomplishments of season 1 is just letting people know that therapists are real people. It's not just some guy with taking notes behind the couch. Like, your therapist is a real person dealing with real things, and they also believe certain things because of the experiences that they've had, and I think that was one of the most important things of season 1.
To be able to share that with the audience, what was that like for you, John?
I think for me, it felt like home, man. I mean, I've been podcasting for a long time. And so just being able to be open with myself, being able to be open with you guys, being able to be open with the audience was something relatively natural for me. I think also even in the therapeutic orientation that I come from with existential, disclosure is also intentional at times. you know, and so you do have to kind of pick your battles, but it wasn't a feeling that was unfamiliar to me. And part of that is not only building the relationship with that client in the room, but now in this medium, building the relationship with the audience that's out there. So if you're from Belgium, what's up, man? You know, if you're from the Philippines, hey, how you doing? You know, we're real people out here, and we'd love to hear your opinions too. And it feels great to be able to bridge that gap now.
For myself, real quick, I think being able to connect with the audience and how, like, what I saw in it and what it did for me, I feel a little different, obviously being a non-therapist here, but being able to come on the podcast, talk about myself, my line of work. I got a lot of responses from audience about, oh shit, you actually are on a podcast. It was like, oh, like it felt like we were on a radio station podcast, like a well-known podcast. Like, it just felt odd and unexpected, I would say. But, you know, to know that people were tuning in, following on IG with the Linktree stuff and getting personal messages on my IG, it was like, yeah, well, here's the link. Check it out. There are multiple platforms you can look at. But yeah, it felt unexpected to see like the audience really engage, at least with myself, on that side of the podcast development.
So how do you feel like that reception changed how you saw your work, or at least how you approached your profession?
I wouldn't say the podcast or itself changed my line of work or approach in any specific way. I think it was just more of, again, getting to know you guys and how people do approach therapy, and how, like John mentioned, people in therapy, therapists are people too. So it was good from looking outside in, because again, I'm not the actual therapist. So learning a lot more from you guys too was, it was a good, let's say, a good knowledge based thing. It was just like, more stuff that I don't know about MFT line of work or eating disorders, right? Or existential. It just felt good to know a little bit more about that side of work.
Okay. There you go.
Maya, I got a question for you, man.
Yeah.
So obviously you took a lot of the heavy reins for season 1 of Therapy House, but I guess this is just a good time to also ask you, what are some of your more directorial expectations regarding season 2? You know, I mean, you're obviously the one organizing us. You're the one who is giving us a little bit of direction and providing the analytics. You have been taking that large role, man. And I just want to recognize and validate that we see your efforts. But I also want to know, just like on Therapy House, not just what we do, but why we do. So what are some of these expectations you have for season 2 and your directorial experience growing forward?
Yeah, I feel like season 2 was a success. I know I held on to them for so long, and from what it was and what we thought it could be, it was something special. And so this year, I'm looking to kind of grow it. The Santa Clara County just gave up the news that it's done. So we going back to old reforms. And so now, yeah, new season, new topics. I think we have a few more episodes. We can invite guests in, which we come up with a variety of different topics. And just the view of just how the podcast can be. I mean, in a sense, we are the new media, new sense. We're a new age. We're therapists that not only, we can't just have just a private practice, but it's also like, how do you get that information out to the general population? How do you kind of make their content at least digestible? Because then their outreach then extends even further, or you get to help out a few more people. And so with that, trying to make the content more easy to, spread, or at least then just more educational. A lot of different things have to change. So if that's not only we provide resources with our episodes, whether that is we edit a little differently, all these things kind of we try to upgrade each season just to get a little bit better. So how we run our episodes, how do I direct each show or produce them, which is, out of the benefit of having other people produce the different episodes. But if we're talking about just direction and how we want the episodes to look like, expectations of people coming in, it's just being able to be willing to tell their stories, reflect on its impact on them, and then how it's changed their work, how's it changed the space that they create, how's it changed their look on therapy, how's it changed their look on helping others, how's it changed their self-care, how's it changed them, because people want to hear that depth. And what it's going to take is for people who you invite on, us as producers, to really think about like the feelings that took in, just really getting in touch. And, you know, in a sense, you know, they might say, yeah, this is our therapy session, but I mean, it's still a challenge in and of itself, just to go deep and really look at, you know, what makes you anxious about therapy? What makes you anxious about helping other people? What really goes into the space you create when you're in a room, 4 walls, and it's just you? How do you make that specifically unique to you or specifically healing to others? And so trying to direct people, trying to pull that out, knowing that that's in everybody that comes on the show, a unique perspective or a unique way that they do their work, trying to have that fully flourish in season 2 is just, you know, the goal, and what you continue to kind of grow and try to challenge yourself and challenge others as you get to a project.
Sounds like you're talking a lot about not only the access to care on a personal level, but also the access to this new medium that we're sharing, man. And just want to thank you, man, for your direction.
I think there's also, you know, to your question about how, Maya, you see the direction of season 2 going. I think it's evolving from us being able to introduce ourselves to the audience, right? I think, which is something that we talked about, to pivoting into this area where now we get to provide more information for the people that are listening, right? As well as they getting sort of these like snapshots of where our journey as therapists continues to go, because where we're at right now is vastly different from where we started at Therapy House, even the different stages of where we've been. Also, what I'm hearing you say is that we got to tell our unique stories of where we were at, but I feel like we're also going to continue to grow ourselves as therapists, as helpers, you know, in the helping field, by providing this information to clients, or not to clients, excuse me, to listeners, right? I think there's a lot of things that I'm excited to bring up, and as a producer to some of these episodes, I think that's going to be challenging in its own right, because I personally do feel a little bit of the pressure to want to deliver good content, but I think that's also going to be a good experience, because I'm going to be able to pull from what I know and recognize what I don't know and sit with it with you all.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. Yeah, to produce some of these shows and like grow as like in this medium of like, you know, what it is to do a podcast, what it is to produce a podcast, like all that, you know. So we're going to grow in that sense. You know, well, some of you have already done it already, but like for me, this is like the first time I'm doing a podcast. So it's like having that knowledge and this experience is, I'm looking forward to that season 2. Yeah. And just, it's interesting for me. I know that like, since doing this podcast, you know, like we were talking on earlier, was like, you know, people, you know, messaging me, people like, I heard your podcast and your experience of when I did the ayahuasca. Dude, that was crazy. Like, yeah. And like, yeah. Yeah. And so, you know, I don't know. I just never thought that I would never even talk about that on a podcast. Like I would talk about my close friends, but not on a podcast. But it was, I think it was great to talk about that. And I think a lot of people do have questions about like psychedelics or, you know, things of that manner. And so having this, you know, oh, you can go check out Lou's podcast, go check out, you know, John's podcast if you want to hear more about these certain topics. So I think this is we're on a good path, and, you know, I know we're just going to continue to grow, and, you know, one day, hopefully we have video, you know, hopefully we have some videos and like do some stuff like that and put out on YouTube, and that just grows more and more. You know, I think this is a very unique thing, because I don't think there's a lot of like podcasts like this, you know, like we're, you know, guys talking about therapy and like bringing all these topics and stuff, and do it in a way that, you know, that's like you're talking about, digestible, and like that people will want to hear and listen. So yeah, I'm excited about this. I'm excited about season 2.
Maybe we can do an episode on what are the takeaways that the audience is really taking from the podcast, not just ayahuasca and like direct messages, but maybe having like a full Q&A or just taking all of their statements and just kind of like shooting the shit. Yeah, just like we can read it off and like, hey, this person's from somewhere and saying that, and then maybe we can like go off on that and just maybe elaborate.
Yeah, that'd be dope. I mean, when we get into it, so at least then we have a variety of different episodes coming up, and I think Jorge, I think we've alluded to some of them coming up, but I think the first one is the easiest one, which is just all of us, and we come in and we just talk about like just growth. I think that's the one that I'm producing and just really talking about like what it takes, because we're all in different places. We've done different things since episode 1, so just being able to talk about just what you guys have perspective on, like growth and how you change, and is it okay to be in one place and still grow, and if you do, like how do you do it? Being able to, or is it like, yeah, it's perfectly fine to be a journeyman and you grow the most by being different places, being in different situations, being in different things. Or at least then, how do you guys intentionally grow? Do you guys actually add things to your life and just morph into that? Or is it more so of like, yeah, you go to trainings, yeah, you go to retreats, you go to, you find a mentor. And so just exploring those different things. Not too sure where to explore of like when you guys feel stagnant and what that causes and the issues with that and how you break out of it. But at least then that might be something around like resources that we could provide.
I was talking to a good friend today, and he was telling me how, well, he's been a therapist for over 20 years. He's an MFT, and obviously I can't speak so much on Jeremy's role, but how in the therapy world, like it is a minority of therapists that are just full blown only clinical, only working with clients. And there's just like a wide spectrum of people that have this MFT license that practice, right? But somehow, some way, there's space for them to do other things. And we were talking about just personally for me, like what that looks like right now in my journey as I still try to get my hours. And it was something that that stuck with me throughout the whole day today, because I've realized through this journey, of now 4.5 years post graduation, that like the clinical part, the being in the room is only just a fraction of what it means to be a therapist or what it means to hold an MFT license. And I don't know if that's been an experience for you all, but just hanging out with you guys as my boys, I know that we all dabble in different things, and I think part of this license, part of this practice, right, this ability to provide services, I think naturally lends itself to us to do other things, right? And I actually made me realize I don't know a lot of people that only do just full practice, whether that's private, whether that's in the nonprofit world. Like somehow MFTs tend to be doing more than just the clinical work. And I think that's something that now, because I'm in it now and I'm so close to getting my license, I realize that, this isn't the whole thing. And how crazy to think that when I envisioned myself early on wanting to be a therapist, I never realized that it was going to be things non-therapy related too.
I think on there as well, we have tech therapy. What are you thinking? What are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think as all of us can relate to that. We all went through the pandemic, and that was kind of like forced us to do tech therapy or to do virtual therapy, and so like I think we all got kind of pushed into that, and forced into that. So I think even too, just thinking about doing that, I just never thought I would do that. Like I remember it was kind of like talking about it, and kind of, therapists were starting to do it, but it wasn't as like caught on as the pandemic was, and so like I remember like I'm never gonna do that. Like that's whack, dude. I would never do that. I just feel like you can't get a connection with the client, right. And like how's it gonna be effective and all that, and then pandemic happened, you get forced, and now like but it is effective, you know what I mean? And that's one thing I've learned and grown through this.
Now like, people talk about the metaverse therapy now,
Yeah. So, I think just bringing that element into the episode and like, like what are like what are the pitfalls in that, and like, I don't know. I think also too, I've realized sometimes, like as a therapist doing tech therapy or virtual therapy, I don't know. I felt like there's at times where it's kind of like it just becomes this kind of like going through the motions, and like, you know, you kind of slack off a little bit, or you're not sharpened enough in that, because I don't know, like I just felt that. And so that was one thing I noticed, and like I had to really catch myself and not really just go through the motions, because like you're in a comfortable space, like, you know, yeah, you gotta, whatever, you can put like a dress shirt on top and you're in your sweats, you know what I mean, and shorts or whatever, you know. The patients don't see that, the clients don't see that, so you're just chilling, dude. So it's like there's this level that you can just kind of just whatever, you're coasting through because it's just the comfortability. So that's one thing I've noticed. I had to catch myself and like really like I gotta like sharpen up again, you know.
Okay, because I know initially when we started talking about like the episode, it was more so like, oh yeah, the possibilities and everything, but also, it sounds like you're heading on at least the piece in which the impact as a therapist, and like, you know, sometimes you slack off when things to be kind of on top of. So at least that could be an angle you could shoot for. It'd also be pretty dope if we found somebody that was doing prior practice before, like face to face, and then had to go through the transition virtual, because that'd be dope. But you know, hey, whatever you want to do, Lou, you're producing.
You can come in your sweats, Lou. It's all good. Nobody's gonna judge you, bro.
You can come in your sweats.
I'm in my sweats right now.
But so we have, you know, some exciting stuff, and then we got like, unfortunately, we have some social workers coming on for a social worker episode.
I'm still in denial about that one.
Jeremy, what are you thinking about for that episode?
For the social worker episode, I feel like I want to touch base on the history of social work, kind of bring the audience into what is social work and how it's developed over the years. Talk about a few topics in terms of mental health, mental illness. You know, in my line of work now, it's more refugee related. So just kind of have snippets of where it started. Here is a few other areas that social workers can go into. I'll leave the MFT stuff for y'all. But yeah, just provide a history, a little snippet history of it, kind of get your ideas on history of social work and how different it is from the MFT standpoint. But I think on the foundational level, we share a lot of the same principles and approaches to it, to working with a client, being a social agent for change or that kind of concept. But I think at the basis of it, the heart of it, we all want the best for others.
I think speaking on a lot of the topics that we're talking about in terms of expectations, direction of the show, specific episodes that are going to be kind of released on these newer topics, I think that it's always important to reflect on what makes us who we are. And you were asking a little bit earlier, Maya, about, you know, what do you do with feeling stagnant? Do you push yourself forward, or do you stand pat? And I feel like, as you were saying that, one of the biggest things that went through my mind was just the idea of, well, yeah, there are certain things where you find meaning and there are certain things where you create meaning. So yeah, relating back to this social work episode that's going to be coming out, I mean, obviously people have different paths, and there is an element as to why the systemic approach is very popular in also treating mental health and also treating a whole bunch of other resource linkages. There are systems at play. And as much as we want to say that therapy is an individual process, there are systems at play, and systems that also impact each and every one of our clients and each and every one of our own developments. You know, we're talking about not just systems, but also world pandemics with the technology. You know, that was really a big, not just pandemic for physical health, but also a pandemic for social constructs, a pandemic for jumping out of your schema into even trying to be flexible, to think, what can therapy look like in the future? What can this podcast look like in the future? A lot of us, we did deny it. We did say, oh, we're never going to do that. That looks whack. You know, you can't have that same connection when they're not in the room. Like, what about the micro skills? What about, okay, yeah, but there's also a hell of a lot of teenagers that are addicted to their phones and aren't paying attention regardless. It's a different dynamic. There's also people who wouldn't be able to have access to therapy if not for telehealth. At one point, you were even doing telehealth out of state, Lou. So, I mean, that even your whole career, your whole livelihood wouldn't have been even accessible without some of those technological marvels. So, you find meaning at times with things that you cannot plan for, and they're just things that you go through. And you also create meaning by also diversifying yourself and putting yourself in new situations to grow. So I think there obviously is a balance between both of them. Where do we come from and where are we going? I think that one element of the social work episode most definitely has to be shifting the idea of what is it like to work with somebody in consideration of the systems that help shape them versus what is their individual process of growth. I think that social work by nature is trying to look at the social dynamics that have not only impacted them but also restrained them, and also what social resources can also link them to further growth. A lot of times in therapy we talk about, what insights have you had? What are your experiences? But that is just one shade of the picture. The other side of the picture is sort of where social workers come from, which is the systemic approach. Like, let's just not look at you as an individual, but you within a society, you within the transcultural perspective. And so there is another element there. And I know we like to joke and say we're rivals and there's beef between therapists and social workers, who is actually actively listening? What does therapy really look like? But in reality, we're both also just trying to help out clients in different ways.
So I would toss one individually to you and Jorge, but you both are producing a couple of these episodes together. So, what do you guys think about Latinx clinicians or Spanish clinicians? What topics do you feel like you want to touch on or explore in that realm?
Well, I think with the episode of Latinx and Spanish integrated in therapy, there's going to have to be what John is talking about, a combination of the individual experience, the Latinx experience, with the societal history of what, the culture has evolved here, right? And what I think for me also what it looks like in home countries, in Latin American countries. And I can only speak to a little bit of what I know of therapy that's happening in Mexico, but I feel like there is a huge umbrella. And so, John and I are going to probably have to dwindle it down to something, but there's going to have to be a blend of what, the cultural experience is. And then just the fact that at the end of the day, mental health doesn't discriminate, just like diseases don't discriminate, just like sickness doesn't discriminate, people still go through experiences and people still go through issues in their life. And how can you also see them for that suffering that they're going through and support them, right? And I think the big part as well is for those of you that might be new to maybe seeing somebody that maybe doesn't have a similar background, there's a sense of cultural humility that I think is going to be a big important piece, right? As therapists, we have to come in knowing that the clients are the expert of their lives, and there's probably going to be things that we don't fully know, and how can we accept that and not force maybe our clients to feel like they have to teach us these things and take care of us in that way, but to know that we are here in a place of understanding, right? And personally, I can already admit that even though I'm a Mexican raised in the United States therapist, there's a lot of things from Latin American cultures that I still don't fully know, and I have to have that grace, to be able to work. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a combination of those two. I might have taken a lot of what you were thinking, John.
I think the topic of Spanish-speaking clinicians, Latinx, immigration experiences, cultural differences is just so vast that it's going to be impossible to really narrow down completely everything into one episode. I think it much like the first season of Therapy House, it's going to be a starter. It's going to be just laying the groundwork of what we can further expand in future episodes. I mean, for far too long, cultural differences have been ignored a lot of times in therapy. And I know that we've been trying to go on this whole multicultural train since the 90s and diversity and let's have more trainings and cultural humility. But the reality is most of our models are still not fully focused on cultural differences, but cultural differences are part of the everyday person's daily experience. And so there's a part of me that wants to focus on, you know, what have we experienced being of Latin American descent growing up in the United States. Obviously that's something that we can more speak of rather than, you know, what does therapy look like in Peru? What does therapy look like in Mexico? We have ideas, we have heard things. I'm sure that we have our stories that others can also share with us. But in reality, I think we have to start from what have we experienced and what are the people who are going to come on this episode have also experienced. What are they bringing to the table and what they believe the Spanish-speaking population of clinicians and other therapy-like careers have experienced. You know, what are the needs? What are the strengths? And I think that just first and foremost, it's going to come from a place of what have we already experienced. But second, I would like to just open the door for further expansion in the future.
Of course, a lot of these are big, well, vast topics, ones that we'll have to revisit and hope to revisit, make it a continual thing. Talking about Latinx, Spanish clinicians, because yeah, like you said, acculturation, immigration, doing therapy in another language, just the difficulties within that. I mean, there's a lot to unpack, or even like, you know, therapy in other Latin countries too.
There's just so much, you know. I mean, you got what Latinos are we're the largest minority now in the United States, you know, and I just recently put out a referral, you know, a request for a referral for a therapist who's comfortable code switching. And for those of you that, you know, again, no psychobabble, but is comfortable using, you know, what people nowadays call Spanglish, right? Being able to incorporate both English and Spanish at the same time, which is, you know, in the Latinx world, you know, they're called the no sabo kids, but it's beyond that. I guess what I'm trying to say is, you know, there's this now new territory that I'm realizing that because the Latinx culture is so vast that you think about the extremes of Spanish only speaking, you know, clients and people who only speak English, but then there's people that have lived their experience of, you know, being bilingual, and how as a therapist can you join them with that way? And there's almost like a new set of skills that you have to learn. So it's exciting. It's exciting to think that, you know, John and I for that specific episode we'll be able to talk about our own experiences and I think also what we're looking forward to, you know, and what we're seeing, our trends.
Yeah, it would be even interesting too, like if maybe another topic or expanding on that is like how even two different countries or cultures and how they see mental health also, you know, because it's like, you know, I went to this talk and it was by this anthropologist, but she was talking about like psychosis in different cultures and countries and how it's perceived. And I remember that she was bringing up like an Asian country, an East Asian country, and America. And like, I think they were saying the people that are usually like deemed psychotic in the Asian countries, how they perceive their hallucinations, they always see their ancestors, and there's always their ancestors talking to them. And it brings a comfort. It brings like actually a comfort to them. And it's not like they're freaking out or they're, you know, it's like, oh, I'm seeing my ancestors and like they're talking to me and like it's fun. And then the East Asian country, it's kind of a similar thing, but but they thought it was annoying. Like, dude, why is my grandma talking to me right now? Like, get out of here, you know? Like, it was like annoying. And then when they got to America, psychosis is this very violent thing. And it's this very, like, just dark and demons and, like, you know, just violence. And, like what's the, why? Why is it that way that different countries can, you know, experience psychosis in different ways? And even how the society responds to that, to the people, that people had psychosis, it's different. You know, in here in America, I think, like, we treat the mentally ill pretty bad. And, you know, and if we treat them in a way with respect and dignity, and like in these other countries, maybe they would respond differently, you know. But I think it's a cultural thing too, in the sense of how we perceive mental health and how we treat mental health, and like, yeah, like, what do we do? Yeah, it'd be interesting to even know that stuff. You know, you hear about like in Latin countries, well, how is mental health perceived? You know,
exactly. So, I think in addition to, like, you know, my directorial approach, I think one of the themes I've been kind of letting marinate on, and hopefully we can bring out in all of the episodes, is just the sense of, like, you guys are helping professionals. You guys are creating the space in which people can come in and heal. And so what does that take for you guys, or how did your experiences in these topics kind of influence that? Do you guys emphasize a particular approach or a particular value within therapy that allows people to kind of be more free, be more genuine, heal, you know, reach their full potential? Or is it something about you, or whether it is, you know, confronting a particular topic? What do you know about immigration that kind of, that knowing going in, okay, I need to make sure I emphasize this, more welcoming, being, you know, more understanding, increasing the empathy, you know, decreasing the shame, you know, holding more accountability, or what's so have you. And then what makes you guys kind of really think about, like, oh yes, that's how I made the decision to increase this in my space. There's also a sense of being a professional. We have this, like, creative latitude, in a sense that we are trusted. And I think I got this from, like, the psychosis documentary that Lou recommended, that we are professionals. So there's a certain latitude that we are provided or allotted to go to those lengths with the belief that, oh yeah, so-and-so knows, or, you know, you need to do it this way or this particular way, or go push up against this boundary so that we can get healing, and we'll trust you for that. And so how do you guys, or what techniques do you use to kind of, with your creative latitude, that allows healing? For me, it's like humor. I can joke around. I can be playful. I can, you know, pretend I don't know pop culture references, and that makes people kind of like, all right, I'll lower my guard and build more rapport. But that's different. That looks different with, you know, and does that look different when you're working with kids with trauma? Does that look different when you're working with Spanish speaking clients? Does that look different when you're trying to provide, you know, gender affirming care? And so what things do you emphasize? What can other people do? What can you recommend, so that other people can then take something from the podcast and then help others? So big predictions from season 2.
We're trying to get nominated out here. We're trying to get the podcast awards out here.
Is that a thing? Are there podcast awards?
I think iHeartRadio gives out some shit.
I mean, we can make one up.
Podcasters.
I think so. There probably should be. Yeah. Or we could be the inaugural, you know, like the Dundies.
Therapy House, #1 Therapy House podcast.
iHeartRadio, if you listening out here.
Throwing our hat in the ring.
Most relaxed podcast.
I'm tired. I'm sorry.
My bold prediction for season 2 is that we will reach new audiences in even more countries than season 1. I think that we are going to hopefully be able to not only expand our group of Therapy House hosts, but be able to now include Therapy House guests, which will also widen the pool of helping professionals. And in doing so, we're just going to be able to reach a whole new number of different cultures, different experiences, social workers, non-therapists. And I'm hoping that that also increases our chances at checking out those podcasters in different countries. You know, I mean, I think this growth should be able to be possible. We already saw some of it in season 1, and season 2 is just going to give us a lot more exposure.
My bold prediction: I think this season will get us on at least two. At least two of our members will go to separate podcasts and just be a guest. Because we'll be that bomb. 2.
Bold prediction. I would say we reach over 500 followers on IG.
That's producing.
Where are we at right now?
We are at 400 and we are at 190.
Got time? We got time.
Okay, that's gonna take more than doubling, but it's not impossible. Especially when we got that content flowing.
Bold prediction: some of our podcasts are gonna get about 5,000 views, 5,000 listen.
Wow, that's gonna spread like wildfire, huh? Okay, we're going viral.
Gotta think big, right? Gotta think big.
I think my bold prediction is Therapy House will be referenced in some type of presentation or potentially, some type of thing. Yeah, that's my bold prediction. Yeah, I think my bold prediction is that somebody's going to be like, I heard it on Therapy House, At least one of us is gonna come back and say, yo, somebody tried to educate somebody using your podcast. Bullshit to this. I feel like my bold prediction should be that is that
one of us gonna get.
There's gonna be at least one episode where we might do it live.
Damn. All right. Bold prediction. There'll be a season 3. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning into Therapy House. Here to remind you to check out our Linktree at Linktree/therapy_house. There you can find all the links for our podcast website, the different platforms that we are broadcasting on, individual links to our personal pages. Like, comment, rate, and review our podcast so that we can grow. And of course, subscribe so that you'll be the first to know when we drop something new. Until then, we'll see you next time.